Yo, today we get into the story of Alpo Martinez, one of the infamous American drug dealers from East Harlem, New York City. Born June 8, 1966, he became one of the most notorious figures in the 1980s crack cocaine era, known for his flashy lifestyle, his rise on the streets, and later for cooperating with federal authorities. Martinez grew up in East Harlem, a Spanish Harlem, a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood in Upper Manhattan. When he was raised by a single mother with several siblings, by most accounts there were no further present in his life. The neighborhood was poor, crowded and rifled with drugs, gangs, limited opportunities, and environments that shaped his worldview. Alpo attended several schools, a Catholic school on the east side, St. Lucy's Automotive Mechanical High School, and Julia Richmond High School, but he eventually dropped out in his mid-teens. People from his neighborhood described him as street smart, fearless, ambitious, traits that would later define his drug-land persona.
Street life.
But when he was real young, and a certain OG around the way had him on the corner, and he was out there hustling, and I was like, yo, what that nigga doing out? Why he always out there? He said, man, that nigga, he's selling that.
By around age 13 or 14, Alpo reportedly started doing robberies. Before he became a drug kingpin, he was known as Stick-Up Kid, meaning he robbed drug dealers, hustlers, people carrying cash, sometimes neighborhood targets. Back then, robbery was often seen by teens as a faster way to get money than selling drugs, and less complicated than running a whole operation. Street culture in Harlem at that time respected boldness. If you was fearless and willing to pull a gun, your name spread quickly. Alpo would start to come up with plans with his friends to start robbing the biggest drug dealers in the town. He knew where to find the dope at, where it was, and he knew how to get inside of the crib. Well, he built his reputation off of everything he had seen in the streets and everything the OGs in his ears was trying to tell him. So he took this on as he got older and he started making his own money. But that's a little past down the line. By his mid-teens, Alpo started shifting from robbing to selling drugs. That's when he connected with AZ Fuzzon and Rich Porter. When people talk about 1980s Harlem, the friendship between Alpo Martinez and AZ Fuzzon is one of the most important relationships in the era. AZ was already getting serious money in the cocaine game. Alpo was younger, flashy, ambitious, and known in the streets. Harlem was small, hustlers all crossed paths. At the time, AZ was more calculated and business-minded. Alpo was bold, charismatic, and fearless. They weren't childhood best friends. They became close through business first. Around 1983-1984, their relationship got serious. AZ had supply connections, Alpo had hunger and street presence. Together, they expanded cocaine distributions through Harlem, moved weight during the beginning of the crack era, built crews of workers beneath them. They later linked with Rich Porter, creating one of the most powerful young drug circles in New York City at that time. At one point, they were reportedly making tens of thousands of dollars a week, eventually much more when crack exploded. Later on, he meets a woman down in DC, and she invites Alpo out to DC. But when Alpo gets to DC, he does it to better his name in the streets.
I met some girls from DC because they was really on the Gucci jackets that I had in the Louis Vuitton, so they stepped to me and was like, well, what's your name, this and that. I told them where I was from. We exchanged numbers. We invite them up to New York, so we like, yo, man, they come to New York, we gotta lay the script down. Let them know we doing our thing up here. So me and Rich, we decide, yo, we gonna buy some Porsches. And that's when the new 944 turbos was coming out. They were just hitting the market. They wanted like 40 for each joint or something. Rich seen a burgundy one he liked. I seen a silver one with some like burgundy seats. I just visioned it with some silver BBs on there, and Rich joint was gonna have some burgundy joints. We had about 70, 75 in a bag. So we was like, yo, here's 75 for 2 joints right now. And it was like,
when people talk about Alpo Martinez, they don't just talk about the money. They talk about how he looked and how he moved. In 1980s Harlem, image was everything. He wasn't low-key, he wanted to be seen. In mid-80s Harlem, luxury foreign cars were status symbols. Alpo was known for driving BMWs, Mercedes-Benz sedans, flashy, clean, brand new models. Back then, most people in Harlem were struggling financially. Seeing a young guy in his early 20s driving a $60,000 plus foreign car, 1985 money was insane. Cars weren't just transportation, they were statements. I made it. I'm untouchable. I run this. He would park them where everyone could see. That visibility built fame, but it also built enemies. Alpo Martinez expanded his drug operation into Washington, D.C. in the late 1980s. He entered one of the most violent crack markets in America. Harlem had already made him wealthy and known, but D.C. offered bigger territory and even larger profits. Then he aligned himself with feared local enforcer Wayne Perry, also known as Silk, who had handled intimidation and violence while Alpo focused on supply and distribution. As competitors intensified and paranoia grew, federal prosecutors later accused Alpo of involvement in multiple murders connected to drug disputes and internal betrayals during this period. By the time he was arrested in 1991, he was facing serious drug trafficking charges, along with numerous murder-related counts that could have resulted in the imprisonment or worse. The DC chapter marked the most dangerous and ruthless phase of his career, ultimately took his arrest and decision to cooperate with authorities. When Alpo went to DC, he built a team with Wayne Perry. They were known for extorting, killing, and moving a lot of drugs around DC at the time.
You know, when he went to jail, that's when I really, basically almost like, really took over the town. Now my thing is out of town and I'm a wholesaler. Sometimes I would go to DC with 30 bricks and sell them all in one day.
Alpo wasn't just selling hand to hand, he was supplying crews. That means he made money off volume. Multiple spots moving product daily, street workers selling around the clock. During peak periods, streets estimates suggest the operations was generating well into 6 figures a week before expenses. And this wasn't digital transfers, this was duffel bags, stash houses, and straight cash flow. But the DC money come with higher stakes, more territory disputes, more paranoia, bigger targets on their back. The profits were larger than Harlem, but so was the danger, and as fast as the money was stacking up, federal investigators were quietly building a case that would eventually bring the whole operation crashing down. At this point in time, DC became the murder capital of the world, where friends turned against friends and family turned against family. Years earlier, in 1987, the Harlem drug scene had already been shaken by the killing of Rich Porter, who had once been closely associated with Alpo and AZ. Porter was abducted and later found dead, a case that sent shockwaves through Harlem. Prosecutors later alleged that Alpo was responsible for Porter's murder, claiming it was stemmed from disputes over money and mistrust. That killing became one of the most infamous moments in Harlem's 1980s drug era, symbolizing how quickly alliances could turn deadly. By the time federal authorities formally indicted Alpo in 1991, the case reflected years of investigation into a violent drug network operating between New York and DC. The combination of drug charges and murder allegations put enormous legal pressure on him, ultimately leading him to cooperative agreements and lengthy prison sentence.
A lot of people were starting to talk about, well, we got to get rid of the kid Pope because he's getting too much money, and he's not even from here. He's not even from here. They was going to try to kidnap me, and I wound up getting hit in my ribs. I seen about 4 dudes coming to try to grab me, and I start running. Next thing I know, I feel bullets and all that coming past my head and hitting off the wall and all that, and one caught me in the ribs.
I was at home watching television, and a nurse called me, and she was like, do you know Albert Hill? And I'm like, no, why? She was like, because he was just shot. The helicopters is taking him to such and such hospital, and he gave your name. They didn't even know if he was going to make it. They couldn't tell us that. He made it out of surgery, and they had him in a recovery room.
Looking in his eyes, like he was, like he hope he don't die.
They had all this stuff hooked up to him, and the machine was breathing for him.
After being shot, he reportedly became more paranoid and more ruthless about loyalty and betrayal. in the drug game. Surviving an attempt on your life often hardens a person, and many believe this moment pushed Alpo deeper into a mindset of strike first before being struck. Instead of slowing down, he leaned further into the lifestyle, expanding operations and becoming more calculated about threats around him. By the time he later moved operations to Washington, D.C., he wasn't moving like a young, flashy hustler anymore. He was moving like someone who already survived an attempt on his life. Shot didn't end Alpo's run, it intensified it. Surviving a moment that didn't make him step back, it made him colder, more cautious, and more dangerous in the years that followed. Once Alpo's turned to link with Wayne Perry, they started recruiting kids such as Shorty Pop. Shorty Pop was a young shooter, but before that, he was a singer in a music group.
Coming out Southeast, he just wanted to be up under somebody that was going to look out for him. And through him, I wound up meeting another cat named Wayne Perry.
When Poe hooked up with Wayne, that was the best thing that happened to Poe. Poe had the money and the coke. Wayne had the power.
He had the town on lock. Anyone who mentioned his name knew because he was about his work and didn't have no problem with talking about it and telling everybody and didn't care. And if you tried to go testify...
Alpo put together a 5-man hit team in D.C. The already war zone became more dangerous with bodies dropping regularly.
When I heard about these murders and all that, it was like, nah, man, it can't be talking about the same dude.
Al said, man, you know, killers respect killers, man.
So, killers respect killers and all that type of thing.
And nobody ain't taking shit from Al.
If he wouldn't have had that killing instance when he went to D.C., he would have never made it out of D.C.
He wasn't born a killer. But when you running with killers, you begin to be a killer.
The game's turning you into a cold-blooded monster, man.
The millions Alpo was making may not have been enough for him.
Man, I got caught up in the power. Because the money was there. I was making the money, but I got caught up in the power. I got caught up in the hype.
That power rush was similar to the feeling he got as a young stick-up kid. As the question goes, did the lines become blurry for Alpo? Or no matter how much money he made from the drug game, he was still a stick-up kid by nature.
I had a young Dominican connect off of Broadway, and he wasn't really in position at the time when I was really dealing with him to really front me crazy. He would front me one or two, but he wasn't really in a position where, we wanted him to front us like, 50, 60, 100 keys.
It is believed that Alpo was referring to former dealer Juan, also known as OG Juan, not being in the position to handle what Alpo needed at the time. Jay-Z also alluded to the relationship.
Real shit, champ. Alpo bought his bricks here.
When I hear a song like Jay-Z saying I got my bricks from over here and all that, it's so funny to me because I know what he's talking about.
My connect wasn't in position at the time like that, and Richard was dealing with his connect that he met when he did that year in prison. Fritz was getting boatloads of that stuff.
While doing a year on Rikers Island for a gun charge, Rich met a hustler from Fritz's crew out of 112th Street named Rambo.
The total I gave in the penitentiary out of my life was 15 and a half years.
Rich Porter would come home first, before Rambo. But it was established once Rambo comes home, he would introduce Rich Porter to Fritz. And in 1986, Rambo kept his word.
I called him, yo, Rich, I'm home. He said, yo, Reg. Reggie ain't like Rambo. He said, I don't like Rambo, I like Reggie Reg. He said, yo, Reg, I'm on my way. Rich drove up in a white M3 BMW, jumped out with the Hail Mary on with the Adidas suit. Yo, what's up? Rich said, yo, Reggie Reg, yo, where your man Fritz at? Because I used to tell him stories about Fritz.
The rest was history. Fritz put Rich on another level.
But then it stopped. The kid caught a dry spell.
Back in 89, there was a barge coming through the East River that got intercepted and had mad drugs on it. That was his.
Being that Fritz was putting up his own money, the Colombian cartel was able to ship Fritz another shipment fast. But somewhere miscommunication or just opportunity got in the way of Alpo and Rich.
I told my little man, I said, yo, we going to New York, man, and we gonna go see Rich. First I went to New York, I took care of my business with him. I spent about $500,000 with him and got my bricks and all that. I told my little man, I said, yo, we're gonna fly to New York. I'm gonna get with Rich and I'm gonna find out what the hell is going on. One thing led to another, and Oh yeah, by the way, I got my money back. I just got hit with a bunch of bricks from him that I was supposed to bring the money back for. I kept that.
Andre Tank Johnson, a young DC millionaire, had a business relationship with Alpo, purchasing large amounts of keys. But somewhere, somehow, Alpo started dealing with Tank's girl, and Tank started dealing with Gary's girl. Gary was another young DC millionaire that Alpo became good friends with, and once Gary found out about Tank, he wanted to kill him.
I kind of like was able to talk to my man Gary and tell Gary like, yo, check this out, dude is spending money with me, just chill out. Man, the man was spending about $400,000 every month with me, at least that.
One day, Tank met up with Alpo to purchase some keys, but didn't know Gary was sitting in Alpo's car. Alpo got out of his car and proceeded to get into Tank's truck.
So I got into the truck, I told the kid Andre, I said, what's up, man? I said, everything all right? The kid Andre jumped into the back of the caravan to go get the money out and all that.
According to Alpo, Gary slid out of Alpo's car and approached Tank's truck, while Tank was grabbing a bag of money from the back.
So as soon as the kid Andre turns around and hit him right in the head, boom! My man Gary was strapped all the time. He knew he was gonna kill him, but he knew not to tell me, because I was gonna tell him, no, don't do that. I'm saying I'm gonna miss the money, but I got the girl now too. I got the 270 now. So I take the money. I said, man, what the hell?
Became good friends, but according to Alpo, he got word that Gary was planning to rob and kill him. So Alpo hatched a plan to take Gary out first. At the same time, Gary had problems with a DC gangster named Jawbreaker. One night, Gary found out where Jawbreaker was and called Alpo. Alpo, along with a couple of hitters, decided to meet up with Gary to look for Jawbreaker.
So we go meet the kid Gary, because this is a perfect opportunity. Don't nobody know he's with us now. And when he come up missing, we can always be like, man, you know, I knew how to deny it quick. I give the signal through the rearview mirror. My man hit him with the revolver. All you hear is, ugh.
Whether these were street beefs that Alpo took advantage of, or the stick-up kid in Alpo that never went away, it all came at a cost that consumed everything around him. And some of the people who trusted him the most paid the highest price. Alpo's rise reflected the harsh reality of the 80s era, where fast money, unchecked violence, and federal attention collided. And in November of 1991, Alpo Martinez was arrested by the feds in Washington, D.C. Federal prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, or life without parole.
I'm personally opposed to the death penalty, as I've told the president, but I probably asked for it.
Alpo Martinez became a witness for the government and cooperated against individuals in his organization, including Wayne Perry. Alpo was released in 2015, and by October 31st, 2021, Alpo Martinez was killed.
Alpo Martinez shot and killed on the streets of Harlem. He was a larger-than-life figure who seemed to defy death. Fox 5's Lisa Evers goes over who he was and why he might have had a long list of enemies.
He was one of the city's most notorious drug dealers, famous since the 1980s for his murderous ways and mountains of cash and drugs, immortalized in dozens of rap songs.
If you want more videos like this, please like and sub up. I will be dropping more bangers every day. Thank you so much.